What is up? Go Bills! I'm going dry for the next week. It's been a fun weekend. So I don't have any Jaeger today, but I got some Wegmans grapefruit sparkling. Cheers to the Buffalo Bills on that comeback win, man. Good stuff. A little different than Jaeger. That'll change next week. But hey, thanks for joining. Just checking in here from my parents' guest room. I'm still riding high from that W. Pretty cool stuff. So cheers to Buffalo, 3-0, man. So today in music, on this day in music in 1964, the Beach Boys made their U.S. debut on television. They performed a song called I Get Around. Don't ask me to sing it or anything, but it was on the Ed Sullivan Show, and they kind of announced who they were, the Beach Boys, 1964. Let's see, 1964 was it Goldfinger, I think, came out, James Bond? Not Goldmember, Goldfinger came out. And then my favorite one was Thunderball in 65. But to this day, when I hear the Beach Boys, I was at a cross-country camp back in my junior year of high school, probably about 60 to 70 pounds ago. And they would wake us up at 5 a.m. to Beach Boys. And if I hear the Beach Boys, my stomach could almost turn, because over there in the Pocono Mountains, the Blue Cross cross-country camp in the Pocono Mountains ran about 70 miles, most of it uphill, in 1 week's time. And Coach still voicing my on days. So Beach Boys, a fun fact for you. In 1986, there's a song by the Beatles called Twist and Shout. It re-entered the U.S. singles chart. And if my connection's going out, just bear with. But Ferris Bueller's Day Off came out in 1986. And the Twist and Shout song re-entered the singles for the first time in, I don't know how many years it was, since the 60s. But Ferris Bueller's Day Off, one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. There's actually that point in the movie, if you've ever seen it, Twist and Shout, when it was being sung by Ferris on his day off. I like the first half of that movie, and I think towards the end, it kind of loses me. But anytime I hear 9 times, I think of Ed Rooney. How many homes have I sold in the past 6 weeks? 9 times, 9 homes. And just the burp machine, the oh, oh, ow, ow, oh, 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 oh. And then he kind of looks back at the camera. I'm a diehard Home Alone fan, so it's kind of got that Home Alone vibe, and I love that about Ferris Bueller. Birthday today is Stephen Jenkins, lead singer of a band called Third Eye Blind. They are out of Sacramento, California, I believe. I've only been kicked out of a concert once. It was in 2010 in July. I went up to see Rammstein up in Quebec City, about 100,000 people. We were front row. Got back, and the next day, Third Eye Blind was playing at University of Buffalo, right at the football stadium there. And instead of getting tickets, I thought I would just kind of crawl underneath the bleachers and get onto to the field there. And Tom Tazowski, God bless him, he ran away from the cops and security that were chasing us. And me and CJ, we were, oh, that's it, us. So we were just kicked out of the stadium, and we drank elsewhere. But that's my Third Eye Blind story. I've seen him in Santa Barbara, California on a date. And then there was another date at Darien Lake. It's a good time, that band. There's that song Jumper. It's just 90s. But happy 54th birthday, Stephen Jenkins. And you know who turns 36 today is Avril Lavigne. You remember Avril Lavigne? I never knew she was 17 years old in 2002 when the Complicated song came out. I know my buddy CJ used to play that, and that stupid Vanessa Carlton song, 1,000 Miles or something, that Ashton will sometimes play with me. And there's that Michelle Branch song. It's kind of like that when the little girls were doing their own thing. They came the boy bands, and then they came like the girls, like Christina Aguilera and Britney and all that kind of stuff. Avril Lavigne's 36. She's a Metallica fan. She sang Fuel with her band, Metallica's Fuel, at the MTV Icon in 2003. And then when me and Ryan had our greatest week of our life in December of 2011 at the Fillmore West, which, by the way, opened up this week in 1969, the Fillmore West. Avril Lavigne had a testimonial to Metallica, just congratulating them, on 30 years, 4 gigs in a week. And me and Ryan were right up front for that, and Avril Lavigne said something. People were booing and stuff, and I remember Hatfield got on the mic in between songs and mentioned it. It's like, oh, come on, you don't have to boo her, So there you go. Today's subject matter is Mr. Cliff Burton. Cliff Burton, today, he died September 27th in 1986 at the age of 24. He was born in 1962. Today's quote is a line from a song called "To Live Is to Die" off their "And Justice for All" record. So after Puppets was released in '86, Cliff passed a few months later, and then a few years later, "And Justice for All," there was an instrumental piece called "To Live Is to Die," and in that piece there was just a lyric line that Cliff wrote, and it goes something like, I'm blanking right now. Let's see. When a man lies, he murders some part of the world. These are the pale deaths which men miscall their lives. All this I cannot bear to witness any longer. Cannot the kingdom of salvation take me home? And they've only played that song once, and me and Ryan got it at the Fillmore, so that was a really special song for us. "To Live Is to Die." It came out in '88, the year we were born. But that's today's quote. It's today's subject matter, Mr. Cliff Burton. And I think I just have to start off right off the bat, man, with the Bills game. There were songs in between the whistles. We had "A Wolf and Man," we had "The God That Failed," and we had 2 songs Cliff Burton played on was in Rich Stadium today: "Creeping Death" and "Seek and Destroy." So a Cliff Burton penned music is still being played in stadiums. I have a little bias here. I think in my heart that Metallica is the biggest, greatest American band of all time. There's Kiss and there's Aerosmith and there's Grateful Dead, also from the Bay Area. But it's timeless stuff, and it'll be in stadiums for the rest of eternity, hopefully with fans. But this picture is the very first picture that I put up in our room. Our house got redone in 2004. Me and Ryan moved from our bunk beds upstairs to the basement. And we were about a year into loving Metallica, and this is the one picture that hung up at the center of my room, right by all my DVDs: Lord of the Rings, Matrix, Batman Animated Series. When you walk down in my bedroom, this is what you saw. And we got James Hetfield right here, Mr. Lars Ulrich, Kirk Hammett, and the late, great Cliff Burton. We just had a walk from Mike Holden yesterday, and when I looked at this picture, there was one thing that Mike mentioned, how he asked me if I think that Cliff's got a lot of pubes, because as you could tell, it's just a little hairy there, right? So thanks, Mike. I haven't forgotten that funny-ass question. But this is Metallica. This is Metallica, if I had to guess, 1984 after a show. Imagine being 21 years old and being told, all right, we're going to take you around the world. We're going to go to Europe and tour Europe. And this is exactly what happened. Of course, they had a beer in the hand. And when I see this picture, I think of all the drinking that happened in our basement growing up. And the amount of drinking, the first beers that my friends have ever had was downstairs. And this was when I was a big fan, and I still am, but when I was just starting up, only listening to Metallica, I would fantasize just looking at this picture. And at the time, I was, 15 or something? These guys look so old. But now I look at this picture, man, they're just babies, Love this picture. Love it. And thank you, Paul Dressel. And you can't tell, but the cool thing about this lineup, James has blonde hair, Lars has brown hair, brunette. Kirk has black hair, and Cliff had real dark red hair. You know, the dynamic of different hair colors for each guy. 2009, Metallica were inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in their first year of eligibility. Cliff Burton's dad was there to accept it on his behalf. Ray Burton, he passed away January 15th, 2020. Pretty nuts between Neil Peart and then Ray Burton happened, and of course Kobe Bryant, and then this crazy ass year would happen. It's bringing on 2021, right? I'm looking at the leaves here. Favorite season is fall. Ray Burton inducted Cliff Burton in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, his son, and I've had the pleasure of meeting Ray a few times. First of which was in Detroit, 2013, where Metallica on the 30th anniversary of that record, they performed Kill 'Em All in its entirety, from Hit the Lights to Metal Militia, and then on the stage there, and I just remember waving to him using his chair and his big ass blinder, sunglasses, and he smiled. He had similar smiles and smiled and waved at me. That was awesome. And then it wasn't until Oakland 2016 at the Fox Theater. It was the week I was leaving California to come back home. And Ray Burton was there, his hat was decked out, and just he was there at the shows, the occasional shows he would go to, and just say hello and what's up to the fans. And thanks Joe Pacella for kind of, you know, arranging that. And I had a picture with him, and one of the most famous pictures of Cliff Burton is where he's holding up his wolf rings. And I don't have my wolf ring, but he has a skull ring and got a pop ring here. And I got a picture of me flashing my fist like that, and Ray did the same thing, and you know, had a few words, and we went on our way. A few years later, I arrived in Indianapolis after driving, I think it was 10 to 14 hours or something like that for Metallica, and he was there on the floor with some of the Metallica people. And that was the last time I saw Ray Burton. So Ray, he really waved Cliff's flag. Post Cliff, Jason Newsted took Cliff's spot. Now it's Rob Trujillo on bass. It's pretty cool to talk about Cliff Burton. He's the only guy, of course, that I have not met in the Metallica camp. You know, I've met Mustaine, I've met Jason Newsted and Ron McGovney, but you know, Kurt Cobain's up there as a guy I'd want to talk to, and of course my late great Papa Len. But man, Cliff, he was just a bell-bottom wearing. He was very much the leader of the band. Not many people know this, but Metallica, they didn't start in San Francisco. They started in Los Angeles. They were a Los Angeles band. James was down high school, you know. Lars was in Newport Beach, and then their original guitarist Dave Mustaine, he was in LA as well. And it wasn't until they saw Cliff Burton play at the Whiskey A Go-Go that they realized, wow, we need this guy Cliff. And Cliff gave him one ultimatum: yes, I'll join the band, but you got to come up to the Bay Area because LA sucks. It was going through all the hair metal and the Bon Jovi and the Rat and all that Def Leppard stuff. Love that stuff, fun music, but the crowds weren't really following the heaviness like they were up in the Bay Area. And that's what happened. They moved up to SF, and Lars is still there. James is now in Val, Colorado, and Kirk, he's in Sonoma. He's in Hawaii, and then Rob's in the Santa Monica Mountains near Casey, cousin Casey. So I haven't met Cliff, but the closest thing that I've had to meeting Cliff was, you know, this show I like to bring up my souvenirs and things like that. But this right here, I'm going to show you, it came into a back to the front photo book, just talking about the Master of Puppets tour. This came out about 3 years ago. Big ass book. My laptop right now is on top of it. But this is a souvenir from 1986. This is next to my toaster, which will get its own episode maybe in December. This is one of my most valuable kind of pieces. And if you could tell, this white piece is a part of their road case that they had back in '86. And I haven't touched it, really. Maybe a few times. We'll touch it right now. Really sweet. This is the very last show that Cliff was with the band at. It was in Stockholm, Sweden, 86 in September. And that night they had the next show in Copenhagen, Denmark. They left and everyone was asleep in their bunks. Kirk right here, he wanted Cliff's bunk. So Kirk slept in Cliff's bunk, Cliff slept in Kirk's bunk. And the van slipped on some ice. There's the current band. The bus slipped on ice and Cliff fell through the window, the bus falling on top of him. And, that was, I've read the stories and interviews and stuff, really trying time for the band, but they went and got a new bassist ASAP because that's what Cliff would want them, to do. And Cliff was very much the leader of the band. He was classically trained. You hear any of the Master of Puppets tracks, you could hear the classical kind of Mozart moments in there, and that was Cliff. But this piece, man, this is a road case from that tour, from the Master of Puppets tour. And there's very, very few of these sold. And that's the exact case from 86 right there. Pretty sweet, huh? Yeah. But Cliff, he was a horror fan. He was a comic book fan, just like Kirk. They really bonded on that. No one headbanged more than he did. I remember 2011 when I went to the Fillmore for those shows. I came back, and that Christmas I remember standing up in front of my entire dad's side just to talk about that. And my hair was real long at the time, but I just remember talking about Cliff Burton for a second in front of my entire family, Grandma Jean, God rest her soul, and to bring Cliff into my Christmas dinner with my family was special. And I just remember just explaining how when James talked about Cliff when he was up on stage, the eyes in the back of the head just going up and down and up and down. And I remember doing that, and I looked around at my family, and they're looking at me, just showing them a side of my metal side, right? But I'm going to take a look at some comments here, guys, and thanks for joining at the 5 of you right now. Oh, Charlie, he did? Damn, dude. Yo, Charlie, happy birthday to Charlie Meister, the biggest Metallica fan in Western New York here is with us, dude. That's right. R.I.P. Cliff Burton, man. And I was driving around too, and just thinking about this episode coming up here that is this subject, and I see there's a lot of new New York State license plates around at cars, and all the prefixes on these new plates has KEA on it. Kill 'em all. I thought that was pretty cool. But Cliff in my hearts, Cliff in your hearts, and anyone got anything else to say about Cliff? I mean, Charlie, I know you like Disposable Heroes. I know at Cliff's funeral, they spread his ashes in his ranch, Castro Valley, and they played a song called Orion at his funeral. And Orion is a Metallica written instrumental, beautiful instrumental. And I would love to have met him, but that is it for today. I want to flash this one more time. Stay safe, everyone. God bless. Clifford motherfucking Burton. Listen to Orion. Go Bills, man. See ya.